I like ending a month on some good news, and we have some good news. And it turns out that most Americans aren't falling for the anti-meat propaganda. In fact, the most Americans are continuing to eat meat and in fact think it's a healthy lifestyle choice to eat meat and to eat it every day. Now, to quote a famous movie line, those are rookie numbers, as you'll see. We need to pump them up because people are eating it once a day or so, and really they should be eating meat as their primary source of protein and calories multiple times a day, unless they're doing a single meal a day kind of diet, but that's getting into the weeds a little bit. But the good news is, it seems that we're winning. The bad news is, of course, that the system doesn't seem to care and wants to promote meat as a bad thing that we should eat, industrially processed slop that comes from a factory that has plant-based proteins in it and makes big corporations huge profits at low cost to them, all while continuing to wreck the biosphere, because that's actually what industrial agriculture does. That's what we're told. By the way, we need to do that to save the planet, which is weird because, again, it is undisputable that processed food production is horrible for the environment. But we're told that animal agriculture is way worse, even though that doesn't stand up to scrutiny. But don't defy the narrative, otherwise you get canceled. That's how it works. But let's focus on the good news. Americans have come to understand that eating meat is healthy. And this is probably part of the reason why meat prices continue to not really go down post-2020 madness. And in the aftermath of last year's droughts and things, meat prices are probably going to still remain high because more people eat meat. Now, unfortunately, it's not, ruminant animals most people are eating. The most popular meats in America are still chicken and pork, but beef is quickly gaining ground, only restricted because of the cost of the red meat. We really need to get more cows out there. And so if you are someone who's been thinking about getting into ranching at all, even on a small scale, this could be a good time for it. I suspect the popularity of red meat is going to continue to confound our so-called benevolent rulers who wish us to eat an improper diet for their own weird reasons. But let's dive into this article, which comes from as mainstream and news sources you're going to hear, Newsweek magazine. Headline from Newsweek: Americans refuse to quit eating meat. Written by someone calling themselves Jess Thompson on the 23rd of May, so a little over a week ago. And this is an article that just drips with sadness, because apparently the typical American on the street isn't falling for the propaganda saying that meat bad, meat dangerous, meat destroy planet. People aren't buying it. Thank God for that. In fact, when you see some of these numbers, it's going to be astonishing just how clear it is that people aren't falling for this. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to give you a quick quote here, and then we'll just summarize what the rest of this says. So, here's the meat of it. Quote: despite the great strides made by vegetarian and vegan movements over the past few decades, most Americans aren't going to give up their meat-based diets anytime soon. You're darn tootin' we're not. An exclusive poll of 1,500 eligible U.S. voters conducted for Newsweek by Redfield and Wilton Strategies on May 17th found that a majority of Americans regularly eat meat and believe that it is a healthy choice. They also said the meat industry is not that bad for the temperature. The polling also found that 81% of people eat meat at least once a week, and 10% said that they ate it only once or twice a month. Only 4% and 3% of the respondents said that they rarely or never ate meat, respectively. Other questions revealed that 35% of people strongly agreed with the statement that it's healthy to eat meat, with 41% selecting agree, and 17% selecting neither agree nor disagree. Only 4% said that they disagreed, and a further 1% said that they strongly disagreed. End quote. Those are all hopeful numbers to me. We're winning the battle, folks. This is a good thing. But there's a lot of work to be done on this front. That much is obvious. So the rest of that article is pretty straightforward. It repeats what we've always been told. Red meat bad. Red meat causes XYZ health problems, which is nonsense. Red meat does bad things to planet. Again, nonsense. We know, for instance, that yes, industrial scale cattle production is probably not the best thing in the world, but there are alternative methods for producing cattle. We know this isn't controversial. What we need to get back to is sort of pre-industrial methods of agriculture for at least beef cattle. Generally means that would be things like more ranchers producing more cattle on an individual basis, herds that they can themselves manage. That might not mean you're not going to get 10,000 head of cattle being done at a time by a place anymore. You're not going to have these huge feedlots anymore. But if you have more farmers, more ranchers selling meat to their local markets, that's another novel concept, with some exceptions, of course, because there are regions in the United States and other places that aren't really the best for grazing cattle, of course. But for most places, most people, you can raise cattle just fine. When we put that power back into the hands of local people and local communities, what's going to happen? Your prices should come down. You also get a better community dynamic because people should know who produces their food. The problem is the modern world does not make that happen. It doesn't make it possible. And of course, why would they make that possible? The modern world runs on the very basic economic concept of the lowest price for production and the lowest price passed to the consumer. Period, full stop. And for a lot of things, that might be fine. Shirt I'm wearing, whatever, that kind of thing, maybe. Although there is a very good argument to be made that consumer goods have suffered severely also by that kind of thinking. Clothes don't last as long as they used to. Shoes definitely don't last as long as they used to. Even complex pieces of machinery don't generally last as long as they used to, simply because of that thinking. But focusing mostly on animal agriculture and meat, it would be far better for your farmers to be embedded in their communities, for the people in your community to know where your meat came from. And this is why I'm happy to visit my local rancher about once a month or so and buy some meat directly from him. Keeps a good relationship going. It's good as a reality check for my people like myself who don't live in a lifestyle producing this animal, the meat ourselves, to know where our food comes from. And the same could be said also for if you eat plants of any kind, to know where that came from. Go to your local farmer's market. That is the best way you can, one, stick your finger at the people out there who want you to eat nothing but processed slop in the name of being green. That's your best way to resist them, is to get to know your local food producers and buy as much of your food as you can afford to local. Obviously, some people who are just trying to be healthy don't have a lot of money to work with. No shame in being poor, please. Buy your meat where you can, buy your vegetables where you can, eat what you can that makes you healthy as you work on bettering your situation, which everybody wants to do. But this is good news. In general, this is unequivocally good news. Americans have not had that anti-meat messaging hit home. We're talking 4% of people or less don't eat meat at all. And a small percentage of people only eat it once or twice a week or month. Almost everybody eats it daily. Almost half of people think it's healthy. We really do got to work on that messaging that meat is in fact healthy. And the way to do that isn't going to be with a bunch of YouTube videos. Hate to say it. Yes, there's a place for that in the discourse. It's going to be you talking to your neighbors about your animal-based keto, your animal-based paleo, like what Dr. Saladino does, or your pure carnivore diet, whatever it is you do, and about the health benefits, how nutritionally dense meat is, especially red meat, how there are compounds that your body desperately needs that can only be gotten from meat, and that people who avoid eating meat tend to take a lot of supplements to make up for it. It'd be better to get everything that your body needs from the food you eat and the water you drink. That shouldn't be controversial. Curious what you think of this, so let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't, it does help. Sharing this on social media helps a lot too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for tuning in.